Says Comic Book Syndicate, something in French. Ensemblez-vous, or something. Very nice. I like it, because since we were talking about the French comic book.
Exactly.
All right, we're back.
Yeah.
We're a man short. We're going to try to rock the episode, like this next segment.
We're going to review G.I.Joe, the comic book.
With just the three of us.
Yeah, well, there's no one else that's read it, so why would we have someone else?
I read the comic books. Comic books.
Oh no, it's Max. It's Max from the
Marshall,
band.
you want to come in and sit in?
Yeah, well, might as well, sure.
Oh,
All right, everybody.
Man, Sally's too cool to clap. She just hits the stick. So, since there was a movie released this year called G.I. Joe, but not actually about G.I. Joe, we thought we'd review the comic book that it was based on. Little known fact, the comic came before the cartoon.
Really?
It was, the toy, they had the toy line, and they're like, well, we want to bring it back out, so we need someone, we're going to create a comic book based on the toy. So
the toy came out in the 60s.
And it's
well,
been
yeah,
Hasbro,
the toy came out
all throughout.
Yeah, I think so. The toy's been out since the 40s.
The reincarnation.
Yeah, but when they re-brought it out in 1983, they went to Marvel Comics and they said, we want you to create a comic book that ties in with the toy. And so they hired Larry Hama, who was an editor at Marvel at the time, to create the file cards for all the characters. So Larry Hama had a bunch of ideas that he was going to use for Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he adapted them all to G.I. Joe. So Hydra became Cobra, Nick Fury became Hawk, and then he developed all the file cards, wrote all the entire series, and he had almost nothing to do with the cartoon, but the actual figures were based on his designs. And rereading it this past weekend was a pleasure. I absolutely love Larry Hama, the writer. I love there's a couple different artists, but Herb Trimpe, one of the main artists, I think it was great. I loved every minute of it. I don't know.
Todd McFarlane.
No, well, he came much later.
But Todd McFarlane.
He did, yeah.
But
he did.
Todd McFarlane.
I know that name.
Yeah.
I know that name.
McFarlane Toys, Spawn,
So-
yada yada.
So if you guys, I
Started
don't
on
know.
G.I. Joe.
Yes, he did. That's true. Danny's right. One thing he
First time ever. Max.
Well, okay, the comic book, what I liked about it, the funny thing about it is like, this was at a time where like America ruled the world. Right.
Unlike now.
And like, unlike now, it's still at the barrel of a gun, but it's like,
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it is like only America being in charge can they get away with like having like these ridiculous anti-camouflage costumes on. That it's like if you wore pink and you're in a man, you got like, it's like don't ask, don't tell army style. It's like don't ask, we don't want to know if you're into that. But we're just going to let you wear your pink fatigues in this comic book, and we know you're a real American hero, okay? But knowing is half the battle, but in this case, we're just going to cut it at that. Yeah, it's interesting. You know what, let me it's interesting with Hasbro, because like, it's like, I don't know the terminology. It's interesting because this is a toy company that's like kind of like taken a comic book and turned it into a franchise and based solely around the toys that they come out with, and that's what clued me in. I saw the movie, and I was so disappointed because I'm thinking like, sure, you got a budget of multi-million dollars and you're gonna show us all these amazing things and stuff like that. But the thing about it is that all I really wanted to see the '80s comic book reproduced in movie form.
We're not talking about the movie, Max.
I know,
We're
but like the
talking
thing about it, that's
book.
what I just
Okay.
clued in. As soon as you said about Hasbro.
Hasbro.
But that's what I
All right.
realized with the movie. There's no way they could do like the original thing because they want to sell a new product. They want to. We've revamped G.I. Joe. Yeah, that's what I got from it. But fantastic stuff.
Did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I did like it. My fingers got all black and stinky from the old print.
That's the
and,
only way to do it.
and I fell asleep, and it was just tasty.
Thanks. Jenny.
It's actually really interesting. I had no idea that the comic was actually based on the toy line. I thought it existed before the toys, which is actually really interesting. But I enjoyed it. I have to say it was really dated, and as Max said, like the America ruling the world kind of thing. There was so many little bits that you just knew that it was written like 30 years ago because there was Eskimos in it, which is not
not the
politically
proper
correct
term.
anymore.
They're called the
And
meat eaters.
it was not only were Cobra Commander the bad guys, but the Russians were the bad guys. And it was like through
Aren't
the
they
whole
still
thing,
the
like
bad
there the
They're
Red
evil.
Army and everything like that. And I found that like almost laughable because I think they went through Afghanistan, and at the Afghanistan people were all very friendly and wonderful and. You know,
And
to
very-
the Americans, and
Yeah.
then it was the Russians who were in Afghanistan that were, you know,
Yes.
It's so funny,
horrible people.
and they were selling them arms at the same time. It's amazing.
Yes.
So whoever uses American arms against them gets smashed by G.I. Joe.
But did you enjoy the comic?
I did. I really did.
Michael.
Okay. When the time that it was published, it was considered a kid's comic, a toy tie-in. I find, though, going back and rereading it, I think it holds up better than the superhero stuff at the time. Because it has all the good stuff about superhero comics, the adventure, the action, the humor, but it doesn't have the sort of ridiculousness of like the capes and masks and secret identities and that, but it's got all the fun. So it's got colorful costumes, colorful characters.
Ridiculous.
And to me, better dialogue than like the average Chris Claremont or Roger Stern or anything like that. So I think it holds up better than most of the stuff from the 80s. Danny?
I grew up with G.I. Joe as well, like reading the comics, and because I really didn't know any better as a kid growing
Yeah.
up.
What are you saying?
Now, no, I'm saying now, looking back, and I started reading the first and second issues, and looking back at it now, like let's think about it. There's bad guys and there's good guys, just like there is in every comic book ever written. Except these guys all have guns and grenades, like 20 grenades,
Yeah.
machine guns, like call in Roadblock, and he's tanks, missiles, Not one person gets shots.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's the John Wayne. You know what? That's John Wayne, man.
How does-
John Wayne's ghost is making sure none of these guys
No,
get
but
shot.
I mean, like, not even a flesh wound.
Exactly. John Wayne went through all of his movies without
Thing.
taking a bullet, except
Like,
for a couple.
never. And Scarlet, like, she's very attractive, redhead, very feisty.
Needs to take a bullet.
She's wearing high heels.
I know.
High heels.
Like-
Do you recommend it?
Yeah, well, you know what? If you're into it, I recommend it. If you're not into it, play along with the joke, and it's good for you.
Jenny.
I think you have to get back to
I would recommend it. Definitely.
Mike out.
Oh, absolutely. 1 to 92 is one of the best comics ever made. One complete
Guys,
story.
if you have small kids at home and you want to teach them everything about non-violence, this is the book. To break.
Tom Orzakowski, Todd Klein, Ben Oda, Bullseye in Curmudgeon's Corner, Jim Aparo, Artie Simek, John Costanza. We're talking about the letterers here, folks. The men who dedicated their lives, hunched over a drawing table, pen in hand, dipping a quill in ink, and destroying their anatomy, their wrists, risking carpal tunnel to make the comic books legible for you people? In order to give credit where credit's due, the credits should read in a comic book as follows. The letterer, the inker, the penciler, writer, and the editor. In conclusion, as I said, my favorite comic book is a Ben Oda comic book. Thanks for your time.
She spent a dime for Naquan and a 90 cents for that old candy.